I saw that people were doing their Project L or 2x KO, whatever you want to call it. I'm not gonna rehash and keep saying that the name is bad. Everybody knows the name is Garbo Doodoo Butter. But that's besides the point. I've noticed that a lot of people who are doing like these roster things aren't like, let me not say don't, but aren't like huge fighting game players. I, however, am a huge fighting game player and have some type of credentials. Like, I got to top floor on Guilty Gear Strive in 17 hours on my first time playing the game. Only, you know, for playing Biken, whatever's below Diamond in Street Fighter, I have my Manon and my Eder sitting right there. Haven't played it in a minute, but that's exactly where they're at. I got to like I almost got to God of Destruction. I got to like Pride, like Trooper, whatever the fuck, Zoo Trooper, whatever the rank is in fighters. So I am an experienced fighting game connoisseur. I know what I'm talking about, kind of. I'm still dumb at the end of the day. Just my opinion. It's all just my opinion. Please don't fucking riot in the comments and like come for my fucking neck. It's just opinion. But, you know, I just want to open up the room for discussion where, you know, we all look at it and go, oh, gameplay. Let's actually think about it for a second. You know, just my thought. But, you know, if you like it, do a nigga a solid and hit the like, hit the subscribe. I'm trying to get to 500 subbies. And, you know, like, I really try. I put effort into most of my videos. I'm really trying here, man. You know, do a nigga a solid. No, it don't cost you nothing. You know, and watch the button light up when I say subscribe. I think it lights up at least. Anyways, yep, onto the video. The characters that I've picked for 2xKO, I'm taking into consideration popularity as well as archetypes in fighting games that I think would best translate, if that makes sense. I think that there are a couple of things that there are a couple of archetypes that I haven't seen fully fleshed out so far, that I think with over 100 characters in League, I think that there are a lot of possibilities for a lot of different playstyles and a lot of different representation, and I think that this is a very good starting point. A very good talking point. So starting off, all bias aside, I think that Vex would be a very, very good puppet character. For those of you who don't know what a puppet is, puppet characters in fighting games, you can look at Rosalina and Luna from Super Smash Bros. You can look at Zato from Guilty Gear. You can look at Fortune from Skullgirls. These are all examples of puppet characters, and puppet characters are essentially, basically, you're almost controlling two or multiple different characters at the same time, essentially. That's basically the best way I could put it. And you can use this for a setup, so you can send, for example, Rosalina and Luma from Smash Bros. You could send Luma over the stage, and then you could do a combo with Rosalina, and then you could end it with Luma, or you could use it as a juggle. You can, you know, go back and forth across the stage. There's just various different things that you can do with the puppet, quote unquote. And in this case, I think that having Shadow, who is almost always connected to Vex, I think that they would make an excellent puppet character. You could utilize her R. I think her W could be really well, that you could use that for juggles, where Vex could use the W, or use her W as like a move, and then it could bounce them over to her Shadow. I think that Vex is popular enough where people would actually give her a chance, but I think that she's not as popular as like Yasuo or Ari, to where people wouldn't necessarily think that Vex would be like in a fighting game. But again, I think that she could make for some cool, especially with the tag team dynamic. I think that she could be really cool. Or like for one of her assists, you could like throw out Shadow and let him sit, or let it sit for a minute. You can use that puppet aspect to roll over into the assist and let that be a setup, like Piccolo in Fighters, where he uses his little orb that tracks the enemy. I think she would fit that puppet archetype really well. So far from what I've seen, I think that Ekko is a setup character. Let's keep in mind, when you take in the popularity, you also have to take into consideration what their potential playstyle could actually be like. And I think that having a rushdown character is mandatory in just about every fighting game. There's always a rushdown character. There's a character that's super fast, has really good frame data, has mixes, and I think that a good character to fit that archetype would be Aurelia. Now, Aurelia is super popular. Everybody likes her. She's pretty. She's literally fucking everywhere. One of, if not one of the most recognizable characters in League of Legends. And most beloved or hated, depending on who you ask. But I think that Aurelia would really fit that rushdown archetype. And if you don't know what rushdown is, again, it's one of those really fast characters that like to get in your face, really hyper aggressive, really good frame data, and frame data is good button. So basically how fast your moves can come out. And I think that Aurelia fits that really, really well. Not only that, but I think that you can get really cool multi-hits with her blades as the way, like, you know, as her blades move and shit. I think her blades would work really well with that playstyle, as well as her Q. I think that you can incorporate her Q and her mark. I think that you can incorporate that into her playstyle as well and kind of use that as a reset. So there's a lot of the worst archetype, I would say, or the most heavily controversial archetype is zoners. And zoners, for those of you who don't know, are, as the name implies, zoners. They want to keep you away for as long as possible, and that's how they get their damage. Usually their weakness is as soon as you get in and touch them, they're either super weak or have very little defensive tools. And I think that there are a couple of choices for that pick. I don't think there are a lot, but I think that there's a couple. I think that Zeri would make a very good zoner. Just looking at how they implemented Jinx into the game, I think that Zeri could make for a very good zoner. I also think Azir could make for a very good zoner. I think that Seraphine, all three of these characters could potentially be good for the zoning archetype, depending on how you look at it. But I would probably pick either Seraphine or Azir over Zeri. Zeri is kind of like the runner-up, only because we already have so many Zon characters already with Ekko and Jinx. I think Seraphine with Piltover, or even Caitlyn, I think that they would fit very well into that zoning archetype. They're all hyper long range characters. They all are super fragile when you get in, and I think that the support aspect for all these characters would be really strong, because something in fighting games, especially in tag team fighting games or in games with multiple characters on the same teams, whether that be 3v3, 2v2, something that a lot of people don't take into consideration is how good a support or assist character is. A good supporting character, a good assist in a game goes a long fucking way. We look at Piccolo in Dragon Ball FighterZ. In Marvel vs. Capcom, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, you have Doctor Doom. You have the Unibeam with Iron Man. You know, any beam super in Dragon Ball to extend your combos. Having a really good support or really good assist is really can literally make or break characters. I've seen it with my own two eyes. So I think my gaze is shifting a little bit more towards Seraphine, because I think that with her assist, I think that she could be a really good character to implement. And she has a lot of fans already. She also has a lot of people that don't like her, so I think that being able to slap on her a little bit would be, you know what I'm saying. But also with the Azir, hyper long range. You can do something with the Shurima Shuffle. That can be like a super or an ult. You can do he can have like a setup or an install where it's just his little sun disk shooting at you, so he can go for mix-ups. But Seraphine, you can implement her Echo ability, her passive. You can implement that with her ability, so that way it doesn't necessarily, she has to actually think about how she uses her abilities, whether that be her E, whether that be her Q, whether that be and then her W could be like an assist. I think with both of those characters, they could fit really well into the zoning archetype. But you can pick your poison with either one. It doesn't matter. You can just pick at that point. So I think that she's gonna get added. I think that there's no way that she's not gonna be included in this game, because this is literally everything that she stands for. I think that Samira, like, this is exactly the type of situation that you want to have Samira in. This is exactly the type of game that you want to have Samira in, is a fighting game, because she was even featured as the Soul Fighter like premier skin, the ultimate skin. You know, how you feel about that is, I don't know, but that whole event was centered around fighting games and their archetypes. Like you saw with Lux, she was the zoner. You saw with Shaco, he was the puppet, literally the puppet character. No pun intended, I guess. But I think that Samira makes it into this game hands down, like not even no contest. Now, how you implement her, I think there are a couple different ways you can go about implementing her, and I think that with each way, it gets more interesting. Stay with me now. I think that Samira could make for a very, very, very powerful mix-up character. And I think that she can make for a very, very, very interesting stance character. Follow me. Now, if you don't know what a stance character is someone like Vega, for example. Someone like, I forgot dude's name from Street Fighter 4. But he would switch through different stances. He'd do like the Mantis stance, the Cobra stance, you know what I'm saying? If you're gonna add Samira, I think that the way that you implement her, if you want to go with the mix-up route, is implement her exactly like Dante was in Devil May Cry, or in Dante from Devil May Cry. Implement her just like him from Marvel vs. Capcom 3, just not as broken. Like in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Dante was one of the best characters in the game, purely based off of the fact that he could be used in literally every single situation. He was a perfect all-around character, and I think that Samira being added like him, not only because she basically is Dante from Devil May Cry, just as a, you know, black chick, a black League of Legends character, but like that was her main motive. That's like her main, her main inspiration was from Dante. So I think that adding her like a Dante type character in Project L2XKO would not only pay the respects, but I think would go fucking nuts. Now, going to the stance idea, I think that having her switch back and forth between her gun and between her sword, I think would be very interesting. Or you can make her like Chun-Li in Street Fighter 6, where she also has some stances that lead, you know, some moves that she can use stances to combo to, or she can use the stances while in combos to further like her combo trees, you know what I'm saying? So you could start with her, you could poke with like your gun stance where she uses both of her guns, and then once you landed a hit, you could then combo, you can move into your sword stance, and then you could do X, Y, and Z, and then you could switch into, you could potentially have like a gun and sword stance. I don't fucking know, but I think that having your alternate between using her guns and her swords for combos would not only pay homage to her passive in the game, where you have to constantly use different moves and different, you know, abilities to kind of get that ranking up. Like you can't I don't think you can go wrong with Samira. Like you can literally do it, rush down, mix up. Like just don't make her like, just don't do any weird shit with her. Like if you're gonna add Samira, I want to feel like I'm playing Samira. I want to feel like that Daredevil, that Desert Rose. I want to feel like I see an opportunity, I get in there, I take it. If somebody's blocking, I want them to feel like they're doing everything in their power to hold that guard up. And so I think that she would be a very good, I think she'd be a very good addition. I don't think she's not making it into the game. I think that Samira makes it 100%. The next pick is just like Samira. I don't think that they're not getting into the game. Like I think that if they don't get into the game, niggas will actually riot. Like, I think that there's not a possibility that this character doesn't get into the game. They're super popular. They fit into a fighting game to the T. They were also in the Soul Fighter event. And I think that Set makes it into the game. There's no way he doesn't. He's popular. Niggas love him. And I think that if you want a fighting game, there needs to be some characters that go, oh, okay, yeah, that makes fucking sense. And I think that out of everybody in the roster, Set is the poster boy because he only uses hands. Like, unironically, one of the only characters that throws hands in the game is Set, and he needs to be in the fighting game. It would be a crime if he wasn't in the fighting game. And I think that there are two ways to go about Set. I think that either Set is a big body / brawler. Now, however you feel about brawlers or bruisers, however you want to refer to them as, if you believe that they exist or don't, that's up to you. That's up to your discretion. I don't know. But you could implement him as that, or you could implement him as a grappler. Now, I would prefer the grappler route because I think that grapplers are cool as fuck, and I love grapplers. I main Manon for a second on release. I main Manon in Street Fighter 6. I main Ed now, but I mean, Manon is still like right there. And I think that Set would be fucking brilliant as a grappler. Either way, he should be really slow, but once he's slow, he has very, very limited approach options. But when he gets in and once he opens you up, then I think that's when you need that's when that's when he shines. He gets the damage, he gets the meaties, you know what I'm saying? And I think that implementing set in both of those ways, you get the exact it's the exact same thing. E, I think, could be used for a nice grapple. Then I think that implementing his passive in some way, shape, or form, I don't think the game needs like X Factor from Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I don't think the game needs, I really don't. But I think that if we're making every character unique in the way that they all have something special about them, I think that implementing his passive where he, like, you know, when he drops below a certain threshold, he like glows. I think that implementing that into the game, or implementing that first set, would be really cool and really interesting. I mean, we've seen it, but I think that it would still be interesting in a fighting game stance. I don't think it should work like X Factor, where if you've never played Marvel vs. Capcom, X Factor was probably the most broken bullshit thing to have ever existed ever, because it was a comeback mechanic in the sense that you could use it to like extend combos, you could use it to gain health back and your character move faster, and every time you lost the character, those bonuses or those effects would increase. So for example, Virgil would just become the most unkillable, fast as fuck character that did tons of fucking damage and just murdered everybody. Like, you would just sack your first two characters and just play Virgil with X Factor 3 and it would last forever, and it made the game unbearable for most people. But I think that if you stray away from something like that with Set's passive, I think that it would be an excellent fucking character. And then you can use his ult as a level 3, or you could use it as just a regular ass command grab, or you can make it like Manon in Street Fighter 6, where you could, every time you suplex a nigga, it progressively gets stronger. Maybe not as broken as Manon's. Well, that's debatable whether or not you think Manon's broken, but the way that, you know, every time you get a grab, his passive slowly starts to build. I don't know, you could do something cool with it. I'm not a game designer, but you know what I'm saying, I'm just a nigga on the internet. But yeah, I think that set makes perfect sense. I think that there's no way he's not going to get in. I just hope that they implement him in a very cool way. This is less of an archetype and more of just a playstyle, and I think that now a character that isn't necessarily popular, at least that not that I've seen, I think that Nilah, however you want to pronounce her name, don't know, don't care. I think that Nilah would make for a very interesting keep away character, as well as a grappler. I think that Nilah as a grappler would be really fucking interesting. So naturally, Nilah has a whip, obviously, and I think that her playing to that mid to long range would be a very interesting, well, not interesting, but a playstyle that you see in a lot of fighting games. And I think that, like Axel from Guilty Gear, I think that Nilah could play similar to that. And I think that if you shift that away, like if you don't want to have a character like that, then I think that her as a grappler, using her whip to like grab you and move you around, I think that would also make her very, very interesting. Or maybe both. I don't know. I don't know how you do that, but you know, I don't know. Or I guess the other option you could do is just make her a rushdown, and then I guess having her be a rushdown and a pseudo grappler would also make a lot of sense. She's very bouncy, very floaty, so I think that having her as a rushdown would make probably the most sense. And I think that having her move very elegantly with her whip, and using her opponents, like Manon in Street Fighter, using her opponents like body weight against them with her whip, I think would make for a lot of cool animation. And probably make her just a very cool looking character visually to look at overall. And I think that the way that the art style with 2x KO or whatever it's called, the way the art style is, the like cell shading and stuff, I think that it would just look really, just to see her whip in motion, just to see like her hair and her movement, would be very cool from like an artistic and animation standpoint. But not much else to say about Nilah, whatever. I think that she would just be a very cool character to have, visually just to see. Another character that I think really makes sense in a fighting game, since we have a lot of big brawler bruisers in the game. Big brawler bruisers. Since we have a lot of big characters in the game, in League of Legends, I think that trying to stay away from characters that already are in the game, like I kind of want to keep the regions too, like 2 representatives per region, so I'm trying to not give as many multi-regions. Like in Demacia, we already have Katarina and Darius confirmed. Like we saw Katarina early in production, and then obviously Darius. For Zon, we already have Jinx and Ekko. We'll probably even get Vi, I'm assuming. But I think that we haven't seen a Freljord representative yet, and I think that one of the most obvious choices would be Volibear. I think that Voli has gotten really popular. I think that he would make for a very interesting big body like set. You can incorporate his ultimate into his main kit. You can use it for like super armor moves, and I think that that'll probably be one of the best ways to utilize Voli. I think that using him as one of those big body, really slow but heavy hitting characters, almost like Abigail from Street Fighter, having him be really big, really heavy hitting, really slow, vulnerable to mix-ups, vulnerable to highs to lows, adding Voli into the game would be probably one of the safest bet if you want to add a Freljordian character. Even utilizing his lightning as like an install, or as like his electricity, however you want to call it. I think that using his he could be one of an install character, like for installs for people who don't know, or like in Street Fighter when Ryu uses like his level 1, he gets access to stronger moves, or it gives him access to new moves while the super is active. And I think that Volley having access to an install to like have his lightning or his electricity as an additional buff to him during the game or during the course of the game, I think that would be a super interesting way to integrate him into the game. People may not like this, but I'm trying to think outside the box. I'm not thinking about what I personally want. I'm trying to think outside the box. Personally, if you were to ask, I would want Viego as the second rep for Shadow Isle. He was in the Soul Fighter event. He was the legendary. Either that or Mordekaiser. Those two make the most sense for Shadow Isles. However, let's throw a curveball. Let's add a monster champion, and let's add an unpopular monster champion. Let's add Maokai. Walk with me. I think Maokai would make for a good trap character. He would make for a good setup character with his saplings. I think that you can incorporate Maokai the same way Blanca plays in Street Fighter 6, the way Zato plays in Guilty Gear. I think that you add Maokai, he throws out his little sapling, and it sits. He gets like, how he would utilize his saplings how Kimberly or Ibuki utilize their kunais or their like little spray cans. How Blanca utilizes his Blanca doll. I think that Maokai as a trap character, as a setup character, would be super interesting. Maybe not to fight against, but I think that it would be super interesting just to see. Just to see how they could incorporate him into the game. I think that they could do it. I really think that Maokai could be pulled off as a really good setup character. And I think that he would also make for a perfect assist character. I don't know if there's multiple assists in the game yet. Usually in fighting games, you have multiple assists per character that you could choose from. And I think that there could be two really, really good. You could use his W, and you can use his saplings. I also think that Maokai in the game is known for all his CC. I think that you could bring that into 2X KO Project L. You could bring that and incorporate that into it as well. You can make him a perfect assist character. Like how Boo in Fighters, he can throw parts of his body and it leads to setups. You can have Maokai. He flies over and roots with the W, and that allows a small window of time for you to actually get off a full combo, or to even get combo extensions, get resets. I think that Maokai could be a perfectly executed support character. I also think that he could be a really good trapper or setup character. I think Maokai, as much as people may not like to face him in League, I think that he could probably be a really cool addition. Not super popular, not a face of League, and a monster champion also in the game makes a lot of people happy. So I think Maokai would be a really interesting take on a trap archetype or a trapper character. And I think that he'd probably be really good. Now, looking at another going to another Freljord character, I think that there are two other choices. Not Ash, but I think that there are two other choices, and I think that they both can be pulled off similarly. However, I think that they bring two different vibes. I think that Sejuani and Nunu and Willemp, I think that they can both be applied in the same way, but I'm leaning more towards Nunu and Willemp because just their silhouette would be so much smaller compared to Sejuani. I think that Sejuani would get completely violated because of the hitbox. Her hitbox size would have to be ridiculously fucking huge, unless they just completely removed Bristle or like her boar completely. But I feel like that would take away from the uniqueness of the character itself. If you were to implement them both, with just hypothetically keeping Sejuani with Bristle, I think that they could make for very interesting duo characters. And duo characters are basically just two characters that are controlled the same way basically. So you're playing one character, but you're using two. So if you need an example of that, you would have like Lwain from Grand Blue, where it's kind of like you're utilizing one character, but there are multiple characters that are involved in the actual like moveset of the character. You have Tom and Jerry from Multiverses, if you've ever played that. So basically you're controlling one character, but that character is made up of two. And I think that Nunu and Willem could bring a very interesting comedic value to the game, and I think that they're also very popular. But if you want to go with the unpopular and unconventional choice, you could go with Sejuani and Bristle. And I think that Nunu and Willem could be very comedic in the way that they interact with each other while they use their moves. Multiverses, Tom and Jerry, again, if you've ever played that, they're attacking each other with their moves. So you're getting hit. You're just collateral to them attacking each other. And I think that you could flip that, and you can have Nunu and Willem play with each other during the game, and you're just collateral of their playing, if that makes sense. Like you could send Nunu across the stage, and he could throw snowballs back to Willem for like a combo, and you could be caught in the middle of it, if that makes sense. Just like as a hypothetical. Or Nunu could, drop a shard. He could throw like a shard of ice from across the map. You could just make it very fun, make it very light, and you could have that as like your joke character. Because every game has a joke character. Anyway, yeah, you could just use Nunu and Willem as like the joke character, but if you want to go more serious, you can go Sejuani. Sejuani would be more for like the bruiser archetype, or more of like the big body archetype, I guess, similar to Volley, where they're just really big, like hulking. And then you could use Sejuani and Bristle together, or you could use you can incorporate them both into the attacks, or both into the combo, just like how you would play Sejuani in the actual game. You could do that as well. And I think that you can basically interchange those depending on how you feel, but out of the two, Nunu would probably make the most sense. And I think that having them as the joke character would probably do better for the game, because everybody else is super serious in this game except like Ekko, I guess. Moving to Demacia. You can't have a Demacia rep in a fighting game without it being Silus. Like Silus makes the absolute most sense to have as the like starring Demacia rep. And you could be like, oh, but Gwen, but Lux. Fuck that. Fuck both of them. Like Silus is right there. And I think that Silus could be a very interesting character. You could take Silus in literally whatever direction you could think of. I think that Silus could basically do all of it. And I think that you can make him a grappler with the chains. I think that you can make him a keep away with the chains. I think that you can make him a setup with the chains. I think that you can make him a big body with the chains. You can make him a long, like a zoner. But at the end of the day, the only thing that I would say with Silus is that I hope and pray that if they were to implement him, that we see more of him being able to use magic in various different ways. In Dragon Ball FighterZ, there's a character called Android 21. And when she grabs you, depending on, she has a moves where she grabs you and like absorbs your energy. And depending on something, I forgot, I'll probably put it on screen. Depending on how, whatever happens, she gets access to different moves. And I think that Silus would be really fucking cool if he had something like that. And that would work into his whole like taking magic thing, or stealing people's magic. I think that would be an extremely cool way to implement Silus into the game. Maybe you have it on rotation, like a rotation wheel, where he could take, where like Sora from Smash Bros. Like Sora rotates through 3 things of magic. He does fire, he does ice, he does thunder, and they all do different things. And I think that for Silus, you could maybe do something like that with him. That being able to rotate through different magics that he's hypothetically stolen, like from the game. I've never played Silus's game, but from his game, or even just from made up magic from 2XKO, I think that just him being a character to be able to steal and then utilize in his game plan would not only make him one of the most complex and interesting characters, but I think it would make him also the most skill expressive, and it ties in perfectly to his lore. It would probably do very well to have Silus in a fighting game because that's how he plays, and you can utilize his he plays like he's in a fighting game. His W's up close, his E's up close, his Q's relatively up close. Well, he has like that one zoning tool, so you could use like his Q for poke, and you could utilize his W and his E as like, you know, his get in moves. Yeah, so I think that Silus would be a very, very interesting character, and I think that he would probably be one of the most skill expressive characters and one of the most technically demanding characters if you were to implement him into the game. Second, for Demacia, I think that you can go in hella different directions. Galio would also be a good option. However, I really, really think Shyvana would be so... From a visual standpoint and from a gameplay standpoint, I think that Shyvana would be super fucking cool. Having Shyvana play as like a rushdown type of character, in Mortal Kombat 11, Jax has like a heat mechanic. Like the more he hits you, his fists heat up. And I think that Shyvana should have something like that, where the more she hits you, like as a rushdown character, the more she hits you, the more fury she gets. Yeah, you're following me? Walk with me. And the more fury she has, the stronger her attacks get, and you know what I'm saying. And then the stronger her attacks get, the more draconic in features she gets. You know what I'm saying? So like for her Q or like her W, you know what I'm saying? Have her start to heat up, have her start to exude some of that draconic energy, you know what I'm saying? And then maybe level 3 is like an install, or maybe level 2 is like an install where she actually turns into her dragon form in a combo, or like has an install. I don't know how people would feel about that, but having her have a mechanic, I'm trying to pick characters that all have unique abilities or like attributes to them. I don't want everybody to play the same, or everybody just to be like a boring archetype of a character that we've seen a million times. But having her possess like her fury in a sense, like in actual League of Legends, and translate that over to a fighting game, I think would be really cool. So give her like a heat mechanic, which would be like her fury, and the more she attacks you, the more health you lose, the more she starts to heat up, and the more she starts to look, you know, like a dragon, the more like she starts to lose herself and that dragon side comes out of her. I think that would be super fucking cool. And you can even premiere her with a new design, since she's getting the new like VGU or whatever it is. Since she's like next in line to get that, I think that you can even, you know, debut her with a cool new sleek looking design from the ground up. I think that would be super fucking cool. Or you can make her like a slower character. You can make her more hulking, because if you looked at the concept art for her VGU, they're all relatively bulky, more muscle mommy. So you can make her more hulking figure, you can make her more slower, you can make her more bruiserish like Set, and then the more she attacks, the more she gets pissed off during the fight, the more she takes damage, or the more she does damage, then she could get that fury meter, and then she can move a little bit faster, do a little bit more damage, etc, etc. Go in whichever direction you feel would be cooler from a clarity standpoint, or would just be more enjoyable from a gameplay standpoint, or which would be less broken from a gameplay standpoint. I don't care. Either way, just being able to implement that would be super fucking cool, and I think that Shyvana is super popular in China, as far as I know. So throw her in there for the Chinese people. Hell yeah. There's no war in boxing, say. Now, the last two are kind of just, they're kind of just iffy. I think that they don't, I'm not trying to like fit the whole two representatives role with these two. I just really think that they overall would, I think that this character overall should, their gameplay stance from League of Legends wasn't delivered. However, I feel like it could translate better into a fighting game, and I think that Kante, as like a true stance character in 2XKO, would redeem a bit of what he was missing in the actual League of Legends character. And if you remember when Kante was being teased or you know, being shown to us, it was a stance swapping character who uses like their defense as an offense, or like actually genuinely stance swaps like in the game, like would switch between defense and offense and defense. That was what we were promised, and we kind of got that. We kind of got like a half-assed version of that, I'm not gonna cut, in League, only being able to utilize that when he uses his ult, and that nigga is broken. But I think that translating that into an actual fighting game would take so little effort. It's right there. It's right there. It's in stone. It's set in stone. But being able to translate Kante over to an actual fighting game character would probably be so much fucking easier to do. And I think the results would be so much cooler. I think that him being able to stance swap between breaking his Ntofus and, you know, magically putting them back together, how, like, magic, nigga, that's how you describe it, I don't know. Being able to use these defensive poking options with his unshattered Ntofus, like use his Q as like a poke for footsies, and then when he actually actually lands and hit, you can confirm, you can shatter into your, you know, broken Ntofus, like your attack stance, and then you can fucking go from there. But I think that all out as a mechanic, like it's right. There's no other way to be able to utilize it than just to have him stance swap in the game. And I think that you can make him go from this hulking, like make him like from League, like just make him go from this hulking really slow. Well, he's not slow in game, but like this really defensive monster with these really good defensive tools. And then as soon as he lands that hit, as soon as he gets that one stray hit, he can confirm when he shatters his Ntofus and can confirm into a bunch of other shit. Now, in theory, that sounds broken as hell, but you know, I'm sure they could make it work. Maybe make him take more damage when he shatters his Ntofus and less when he's. That still sounds broken. Nah, that sounds broken. They're fucked with this character, bro. This character is just forever broken in any way, shape, or form. This character is broken. Yeah, but you know, Kante I think would be a really cool choice. I think it would make for a very, very entertaining character to watch. I think he'd make for an extremely entertaining character to watch and to play. Yeah, they like what they couldn't deliver in actual League, I think they could deliver in 2XKO. Now I think that for my last pick, I think that Briar just makes so much fucking sense, and unfortunately, you know, like Briar has gotten super popular for good reasons and bad reasons. Briar has gotten ridiculously popular since her release. I think that Briar is a really cool character, and I think that Briar could make for an extremely cool rushdown character. I think that she could also be a really cool stance character, primarily rushdown, but stance in the way that she shatters her pillory, and she gets access to so many fucking moves. She gets access to so many moves. I think that you could, like, when you shatter your pillory, I think that you could, you know, make it to where it's shattered until like a combo ends, where you shatter it. You can only confirm it into like once a combo has started, like it goes into like her whole frenzy thing, like once she tastes or sees blood, whatever it is, I don't remember, or like what it's like, if she shatters her pillar, she like loses control. I think that once, you know, she plays the footsies game, she would be like Kante in the sense that she plays the footsies game. As soon as she gets a hit, she can confirm it into shattering her pillory, and then she gets access to everything. Like she can use everything. And then, like, I also think that what would be, if you want to make her stand out from other characters, you can implement the way that she constantly uses her own health as a resource. There's a character named Mira in Killer Instinct, and for those of you who don't know, when she uses her moves, it slowly drains her health. So she has to end her combos in very she has to end her combos with like the same move, basically, to get her health back that she used. If you wanted to add something like that to Briar, as unfun as a mechanic as that may be, if you want to make her different from everybody else, make it to where you actually have to be sparing with your moves. You have to be very careful with how you play. you have to be very aware of what's going on around you, and you have to play safe. And then when you find it, and when you find an in, then that's when you can go all out and you can fucking go gung ho. Which is kind of like how you play her in League anyways. You kind of just wait and bide your time, and then you run at niggas. And I think that honestly, I think that Briar could be implemented very, very interestingly into 2XKO. And I think that she's a very popular character again, but I think that she is still fresh enough. No, because she's banned every game. Anyways, yeah, I think she would just be a very cool and unique addition in the way that she plays to the game. Very cool rushdown. I think that giving her, letting us see her in a different light, like she has a voice line in League where she says being able to walk on all fours was so much easier. I think that letting her see her in a new light and allowing her freedom to go super fucking ballistic and actually making her almost like the horror or super creepy character of the game, I think would be a super cool way to add her. But yeah, that's basically my list. I was just trying to be super like objective with the picks. Some of the characters I don't even like, but I think that they would just be really cool. They would be really cool additions into the game, and the way that their gameplay could be played or could be added. Yeah, like let me know who you like. Let me know if you agree, disagree. I want to see everybody's opinions on it. I think that they're very interesting takes. I still think that there are a lot of, not saying that these are like definitively who I want. I think that there are so many characters in League that they can all be implemented in different ways. These are just my initial thoughts. Like this, I didn't have a script. I just did this off the top of my head in like 40 minutes. Yeah, if you like, subscribe, all that bullshit. I don't fucking know, but yeah, love you guys. Have a good one. Outro, generic outro.